Hi everyone, welcome back to Rebirth TV. I am Stacy Benton. We are launching our Rebirth experience. We are in our Rebirth A Gift Series, which actually comes from the novel Rebirth A Gift, and we are in part 1, which is conception. So just want to thank you for listening in. If this is your first time or just watching the videos, I really appreciate you for spending this time today to educate yourself, to inspire yourself, to motivate yourself, so that you can transform your complex trauma and continue on your healing journey. This is what this is all about. And please, I would encourage you to go back and watch the other videos because it will give you a lot of more information and knowledge, because knowledge is power. And this is how you're going to continue or begin your process with healing. So we were talking about, let me see here. Let me just pull up that screen. Here we go. So we were just talking about understanding post-traumatic stress disorder in children. And the last video, I was just going over emotional triggers that you want to actually watch that, monitor your emotional triggers, try to be aware of your mind state, be in a level of mindfulness. And this will increase as you heal. As you go through the process of healing, the trauma in your mind and in your ends, it can cause brain damage as well. So as you are healing, you want to continue to find times and spaces. So meaning that you need to create, if it's just 5 minutes a day, you can start off small if you're just now beginning in your healing journey, because I know that your mind may be overwhelmed with emotions, especially if you just experienced your traumatic events. There's a lot of emotions going on. So there's a lot of high emotions. And I want you to begin to just really take that 5 minutes to really see how you feel, how you're actually feeling at that moment, and get more connected to your feelings and your emotions. So this is so important because it's going to reduce it's going to reduce anxiety for you, and just kind of give your minds a rest period. So I want to encourage you that it take 5 minutes up to 30 minutes. And as you increase that time, you want to continue to take that time to kind of slow down your mind. This is done very well when you are walking, when you are doing things that kind of relaxes you. And that could be painting if you're an artist, if you like to draw, if you are a person who really likes to listen to relaxing music, whatever you really enjoy. You want to take that time to kind of like bring your thought processes down. And that will definitely help with your traumatic triggers or your emotional triggers. So let's scroll down here. And as you can see, common examples of trauma that children and adolescents can experience include things like sexual abuse, rape, school violence, natural disasters, military family-related stressors, sudden or violent loss of a loved one, neglect, serious accidents, life-threatening illnesses, okay? So these are all examples of trauma, all right? So if you have experienced any of this, or if you have a child that has experienced this, I really want you to take time to just take a step back and just really get a hold of your emotions if you can. And this is if you are currently experiencing this or you are being triggered emotionally. You want to take a step back, take a breather, deep breaths is always a good way to just naturally, quickly bring down your stress, your cortisol levels, your anxiety levels. So take a step back. Think about how you're feeling. Try to connect to your feelings. And also, you want to be able to share those experiences with someone you trust. You need a trusted individual that you can be vulnerable with. And if you don't have someone that you could be vulnerable with, I would highly suggest that you reach out a therapist or a spiritual leader. That could be someone that you trust religiously or spiritually. Okay? Because being in isolation is the worst thing that you can do. Isolation is only going to increase your level of confusion and the stress associated with the traumatic events, okay? And I know the first thing you want to do is get alone. And yes, you may need to get it alone for a small periods of time, but try not to stay in a period of loneliness or isolation for a long period of time, okay? And that could be for you or your child. So if you notice that your child is withdrawing, they seem more quiet, reserved, and you know that's really not their personality, please pay attention, because that is a true warning sign that that child may be experiencing some level of trauma. And there could be hidden trauma like sexual abuse or rape. Or it could be if it's a major event that you know that they have experienced, that a death of a loved one or serious illness, serious accidents, life-threatening illness, then those are more those are usually more outward signs. So you can really see those clearly because you can associate it with, that's what happens. They just experience a death of a loved one. But if it's something that's more hidden, like sexual abuse, then that is very subtle. So you really want to pay attention to signs of post-traumatic stress disorder in children following a trauma. Now, remember, we're going back to conception. So this is the beginning of when you experience your trauma. So we're going back to the beginning of conception. So we're looking at this from two lenses. We're looking at it from the perspective of when you were a child and experienced your trauma, and if your child has gone through trauma, okay? All right, so signs of post-traumatic stress disorder: loss of appetite, difficulty concentrating, isolation, as I mentioned earlier, drug use, fearfulness, and nightmares. And the fearfulness is one that may be very subtle at first, where the child is just completely fearful of everything. It's like you touch something, they're scared, or they're scared to try new things like a ride. And they feel very just overly fearful. Definitely pay attention to that, because that is a true sign that there is some trauma that has happened, okay? Nightmares, they just have difficulty sleeping. There's not a restful sleep. That is a true sign of trauma. Nightmares, waking up in the night. Also bedwetting, and they didn't put that here on this list, but bedwetting is definitely a clear sign of trauma. And if a child has gone through a life-threatening illness, bedwetting is one that you really want to pay attention to let you know that your child may have some level of trauma, okay? And it's very dangerous, okay? And I know that's a strong word, but it's very dangerous for the development of that child to ignore these symptoms. So we have to be mindful and watchful to see if our child is having any of these symptoms. Because if they are, all right, if they are having any of these symptoms, then there could be definitely some level of post-traumatic stress as a result of the trauma. Or it could just be a sign that they may have experienced trauma that is hidden, like sexual abuse or sexual assault or some form of touching, neglect by someone that you may be trusting. Okay, so you want to really pay attention to that, because this is very, very critical to watch your children, your child's gestures, withdrawal, kind of isolation, changes in their personality, their energy levels, like they may be overly anxious or no energy at all. They may love to eat, like compulsively eating, or not wanting to eat at all. And that is something definitely within teenagers that you want to pay attention to. And also, while I'm going over this, I want you to be thinking about your own trauma as well. Did you experience any of this? Did you see that as you got older, you had drug use? Or have an addiction now that you want to get help with, but you're not connecting it to your trauma or your childhood trauma? Because you could definitely be dealing with a level of post-traumatic stress, and you're using this to self-medicate. Yeah, and I also mentioned the loss of appetite. That could be for you or your child. If you know your child is a healthy eater and all of a sudden now they don't want to eat, or they are refusing certain foods, or all of a sudden they got a very restrictive diet, especially as teenagers. You really want to pay attention to that. Okay? So these are just some signs that really just kind of connect the dots for you and let you see, have I really experienced trauma, or am I having or exhibiting symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder? Because the post-traumatic stress disorder can be very it could be very challenging. It can also alter your daily activities where you have very low energy. Your child may be exhibiting that as well. So pay attention, be watchful and mindful. And as I am going through this video, I want you to take time out, if you need to pause, to really think about your own experiences, because we're going back to the beginning. We're going back to conception. And let's see here. Now, this article here goes into detail about how emotional abuse in childhood changes the brain. And this is just another article that's embedded in the childhood trauma article that we're going over. And I think this is very interesting as well, because as I mentioned before I even clicked this, that it causes brain damage. It can cause brain disturbances. Okay, so this is done by Leonard Holmes. He is a PhD. So medically reviewed. So this is a credible article here. So it says that childhood emotional abuse and neglect can result in permanent changes to the developing human brain. So I'm going to pause there, because again, the videos, I don't want them to be too long. I'm keeping them right at 15 minutes. And we will come back and discuss this actual article to just bring everything together to understand the fullness of what's actually going on with your child, what actually happened to you when it comes to your own childhood trauma as well. So I'll be back with the third video, and you guys take care.